right, so we're going to do sugaring of the underarm. I'm going to go ahead and cleanse the area. I've placed a towel underneath of her underarm to be able to flatten that area out. She doesn't have a big dip. Some of your guests may have a big dip in the underarm. She doesn't naturally have that dip, but this does give us a nice smooth surface. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Satin Smooth cleanser on my 4x4. I'm going to come over, pulling that skin, just gently cleanse away to remove any dirt, debris, deodorant that was in that area. And also just taking a look at the hair growth in that area that we're getting ready to remove. She's got some very short little hairs here, but sugaring is the one that allows for the least amount of hair possible and still gives you the best opportunity to be able to remove properly. So at that point, I've cleansed her. I'm going to come back through with a dry 4x4 and I'm going to dry the area. Again, at this point, I'm just kind of looking to see what that hair growth looks like in the direction. Not a whole bunch of fluffing that needs to be done, but if you've got longer hairs in there, that's also a good time to be able to fluff that hair. All right. So we are ready to begin. I'm going to go ahead and take her hand, and I'm going to have her hold her breast tissue away from the underarm. That will also just kind of open up that area that we're going to remove the hair from. I'm going to get my tub of sugar. You can reach in, if you've got clean gloves, you can reach your hand into the sugar itself. Because I've already touched her, instead of changing my gloves or putting my contaminated glove into the sugar, I'm going to go ahead and use a stick and just get some of that sugar out. We don't need a whole bunch because, again, we're just doing that small area. And so I'm just trying to remove a small ball of sugar. Once that starts coming up, I'm going to go ahead and grab down further, which will let me get a bigger ball. That way I've got the ball that I need, and I can go ahead and cap that sugar again. Just like you would with hard wax, where you want to make sure that you get rid of any of those strings. We're going to do the same thing with the sugar. Go ahead and cap that again. And now I can go ahead and take that ball off of my stick. I am using the Island paste. We have the traditional and we have the Island. The two formulas vary quite a bit, but the Island is going to be much more solid than the traditional. The traditional is going to be much more fluid. If you have a situation where your client is cooler natured or your hands are cooler natured, you may have a little bit more luck with the traditional than you do the Island. If you are in a warmer environment, if your client is warmer or if your hands are warmer, then the Island paste is probably going to be great. The Island is actually manufactured for warmer, humid climates, thus the Island name. But it works really good for us here in South Carolina because the majority of where we are is going to be humid and warm. So you add that to a bikini area or an underarm area, which typically is warmer anyway, and the Island tends to be a really nice option for you. So you can already start to see that that's moving around. I'm going to just continue to do that until I get it into the tips of my fingers. And then once I lay it onto my guest, I'm actually going to let it sit on her skin as well, and that will also help to have that melt a little bit. And so even as I'm sitting here, I'm not adding much pressure. I'm just letting it sit onto her skin, and we'll see that start to melt down just from her body temperature as well. This is one of the safest ways to remove because we never have to worry about whether or not that wax is too hot or the sugar is too hot. because we are literally using her body temperature to do so. So I'm just going to start moving that. I'm holding the skin taut. I'm only moving that sugar between my fingers where I'm holding that skin taut. I'm going to bring that over, lift off the skin, and I'm going to come back again. And now you can see I'm going to start to use that C motion or C depiction with my fingers. Bringing that through. And as we're moving slowly, what that sugar is doing is melting. And it will actually start to melt down into the follicle. So as I move across this time, I'm going to move at the end of the stroke. From my C motion, I'm going to let my hand dip down, still holding taut, pull or flick back, and then immediately start to pull down again. I'm going to drop and flick back, pull back down again, and continue that motion all the way across. You can see just in this little area that we did here, even though those hairs were so super short, we've already pulled out quite a bit of hair. And so as we continue to work this, their hair is going to get caught up into the ball, but it will also start to be a little more flexible, and so we'll be able to move a little faster. Always good to stay close to the skin. Again, using that kind of C motion, dropping and flicking as we move across. I'm going to go ahead and change gears because I'm going to change the angle that I'm working in. I'm going to come from up top. I'm going to move that sugar down to my fingertips and bring that across. Again, we're doing a minimum of 3 bulldozing in that C motion. Once I get down here, I'm going to go ahead and drop my hand and flick, immediately pulling back in that C motion, flicking, again getting a good grip, flicking, and finally off. Moving that sugar back down to my fingertips before I start this next one. I'm going to come back down here, move it across, my C, forming my fingers into a C, moving that across, moving that across, moving that across, dropping my hand, flicking, moving past where I started with each of those movements. Again, come in this direction to see if I can catch some of those really small hairs. My C formation. Dropping and flicking. With sugaring, you can catch those hairs at their shortest length, about 1/16 of an inch. So we're obviously not going to catch all of these because they're so tiny. But I'm going to show you this ball and how much we really got out of that little bitty patch of hair. You see all those hairs in there? And those were tiny little hairs that were barely just poking through the skin. And now our sugar ball is full of that hair that we just removed. Awesome, right? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to finish this out. And so we've done both underarms at this point. I'm going to go ahead and throw my glove away. I'm going to get a new glove. And then just like any other hair removal that we do, the first thing that's going to hit the skin post-removal is our antiseptic cleanser to make sure that we are tackling any bacteria that may have moved up with those hairs on their way out of the follicle. One of the other beautiful things about sugar is that it is water soluble, so there's no sticky mess left. It cleans up with water. And so this really is just an antiseptic step to try and tackle any bacteria. I'm going to come back through with my dry 4x4 and dry that area. And then with another, I will apply some aloe to cool that tissue down. And now I can go ahead and help her to get comfortable again, and she's all set.